What's the worst way you've been embarrassed by a child? My child was 3 while we were waiting in a doctor's office. An exquisitely dressed elderly woman was sitting next to us and started talking to my son. Kid is fascinated by all the sparkly jewels and such, and says, "I love your shiny necklace, and your pretty earrings, and your yellow teeth." Added it to thank you kind folks for the awards. And thanks too for all the replies. I've been laughing so much today, I love it. I was at work. I worked at the movie theater in my late teens at the ticket booth. A young girl came up with her mom and was like, "You mom, she's so ugly." Talking about me. She had to have been between 5 to 7. Her mom hit her and promptly apologized. And the little girl was like, "What? She is." I felt like utter shit the rest of the day. Crying face, crying face. I had some people over and my 4-year-old nephew start shouting, "Is anyone here afraid of spiders?" Once he had everyone's attention, he told us all that if anyone was afraid of spiders they needed to leave because he found cobwebs, and cobwebs mean spiders. He then proceeded to point out every single cobweb in the house to our guests. My 3-year-old son was with me in Macy's at a jewelry counter. I asked the clerk a question. My son asked, "Why does she have such a huge mark on her cheek?" The color draining out of my face, I quickly recovered and said, "That's where God kissed her." The woman said, "Congratulations. That's the best one I've heard so far." Made myself lunch yesterday, 2 sandwiches because one wouldn't cut it. My 8-year-old asked me if I was a bear eating to get ready for hibernation. Sick burn. When I was 4, I kissed the delivery man on the lips from the local Chinese restaurant. In front of my entire family. My mother told me to never do it again. I was embarrassed by myself, so it counts. My 4-year-old and I were waiting in line to grab a shopping cart at Walmart when she yells as loud as possible to the crowd of many, "Daddy, we are at the People's Zoo you talk about all the time, right?" My daughter watched me put a pad on one day. I wear some pretty giant pads. Out in public she was telling everyone mommy is wearing a diaper today. I was on a plane trip with my 3-year-old. He used the tiny restroom that I did. There was a line. I thought I'd secure the door but hadn't. He slings the door open to tell me something he was excited about. There I sat in open humiliation for all the line to see. I had to convince him to let me shut the damn door. I don't remember this story but my mom tells it all the time. When I was 5 my mom took me into the stall in the women's restroom because she had to go. She had been in there a while and the bathroom had been crowded, so she asked me, mindful muser, "Can you take a look and see if there is a big line out there?" I excitedly screamed, "A lion?" and flung the stall door open. There was a big line. I had a 5-year-old ask me why I was white, lol. I mean, clearly she was just trying to understand the world around her and some things she might be hearing adults say. But it was still embarrassing, especially since I was the only white person in the room. Her dad luckily just quickly changed the subject, lol. At a cafe with my eldest daughter, who was 4 at the time, the waitress comes over to our table and asks my daughter if she would like a drink or some food. My daughter looks up at her and says, "The parts of my drink that my body doesn't want come out as wee. The parts of my food that my body doesn't want come out as poo." I don't remember this. When I was very young, 2, 3, my dad took to the toilet and when he was peeing I shouted, "Wow Dad, your willy's massive." And a load of people started laughing. Smiley face. As a child I did this to my mom. When I was young, 5, my baby brother died. So, when my mom got pregnant again, I was 7, I was very curious and wanted to know everything about what was going on. Cue my mom getting books from the library etc. with pictures of eggs being fertilized and how the fetus looks at various stages etc. 2 weeks later, upon seeing some tadpoles in a jar at a local festival, "Look mummy, sperms." Apparently my mom wanted the ground to swallow her up right there. Took my 4-year-old swimming. At the completion I took him to the men's locker and getting into dry clothes. Amidst dressing he says loud enough for all to hear, "I love your penis, Dad." My little brother likes to tell people that my tummy may look like it's full of fat, but it's actually full of love. It's both sweet and awkward. My little sister is 10 years younger than me. When we were maybe 5 and 15 or so respectively, we were walking through a restaurant parking lot when a big group of bikers exited to their bikes. These guys had the leather getup, the bandanas on their heads, chains, the works. My sister pointed to them and exclaimed, "Look, pirates." They didn't think it was funny. When I was 15 I worked at a concession stand in an arena where I live. These 2, very sweet, girls came up to the counter and started to talk to me. They were 6 and 7. We talked for a good 30 minutes, it was a very slow day. The older one asked how old I was. I told her I was 15. She then looked at me with a disgusted expression on her face and says, "Wow, so you're gonna die soon, huh? Like you're real old." It was more awkward than embarrassing. I was on a walk with my friend and her kids. We were about to cross a busy street, so she asked me if I could hold a hand of one of her daughters. I grabbed this girl's hand, but I did it in very delicate way, not to squeeze her palm. Apparently it was too weak for her, because she said to me hold my hand more firmly. I'm not surprised you don't have a girlfriend if you can't even hold someone's hand properly. My jaw dropped. My friend laughed and that little devil didn't even realize how good her comment had been. The youth choir at church was rehearsing music for Christmas Eve services. The text of one piece began with, "Here betwixt ass and oxen mild," referring to the baby lying in a manger. One boy said, "It'd rather be between two asses than oxen." My older daughter, 5 years old at the time, and I were over at my girlfriend's, wife now, parents' house when we first started dating. They have horses. We were all checking them out and one of the horses farted, without skipping a beat. My daughter said, "That sounds just like yours, Daddy." I thought I was gonna die right there. My future in-laws were laughing their asses off, but I was not. Funny as hell 15 years later, but I was extremely embarrassed at the time. A 12-year-old asked me if it made me sad that my eyelashes were so short and thin. My wife was out with my 2-year-old daughter who pointed at a lady wearing a traditional Indian dress and stated pissed. The lady probably heard pisshead, but what daughter was trying to pronounce was princess. I'm a preschool teacher. We were on the outside playground and it was a hot day. A kid fell off the swing set, so I rush over to check on him. He's full on sobbing, leans against my body, then pulls away, suddenly yelling, "You! I don't like the smell of you." I couldn't even laugh it off. I was looking around in a clothing store, when paranoia came over me, as I was certain that there was something stuck on my dress. I scurried around in search for a full-length mirror, that most clothing stores do have. When I managed to find one, I was checking myself out in this mirror as best as I could, to ease the paranoia I had. In doing so, this little girl approaches me with her mother, just a few feet away, takes one look at me, scoffs, and proceeds to tell me in her own words, that I'm not as beautiful as I think I am. I taught my 11-month-old daughter to say clonk when she fell or ran into something. Her pronunciation wasn't fantastic though, which led to her running into a toy when my parents were visiting and shouting cock. I had to take my 4-year-old to the doctor, and while we were in the waiting room a nearby toddler started crying very loudly, like scream crying for whatever reason. My son waits until the other kid stops, does a very dramatic lowering and shake of his head, then yells he has problems with emotions, Mom? Which is him trying to talk the way I talk to him when he's coping with big emotions, but good God, the way it came out and the volume was mortifying. When I was student teaching, I had a student ask me why he had a D on his progress report. Having just done grades, I was confused because he had a B, and said, "What D?" He proudly stood up and announced to the class and my student teaching coordinator, who happened to be observing, that it was in fact, D's nuts. Changing at the pool and my daughter shouts out, "Daddy's Willie looks like a sausage wrapped in bacon." When I was younger, my family walked into a restaurant and our hostess told us there would be a short wait, to which my younger brother responded, "Well, you better hurry 'cause I need to eat and my dad has got to poop." I was sitting in a restaurant alone, when a young child at a table next to mine says, "Mommy, look at that fat man," and the mother says nothing except, "I know, honey." Then the kid says, "Mommy, why is that man so fat?" The mom says, "Because he eats too much." I was so hurt and embarrassed. It was all I could do to not jump up and address the woman. She's teaching this child at a young age to be disrespectful. We were getting our roof fixed and had to leave to run a quick errand. My 12-year-old, who was 5 at the time, said to the roof guy who was on the roof, "Hey, don't rob us while we're gone 'cause black people always rob houses." I'm black and my husband is white. I was so embarrassed I wanted to cry. When we asked him why he thinks black people rob houses, he said the news. Yeah, we had a long talk with him. I was in the kitchen in my own house. I was in my late teens or early 20s and had just a mustache and chin hair. A kid, family friend, walked in and said, "Your chin hair is not working, it's ugly," and laughed. Luckily no one else was around. I started shaving my chin hair. Lol, now it's years later and I admit I did look goofy. Kids have no filter, but now I've got a full beard, so if. My 7-year-old brother wandered over to the booths at a KFC and yelled, "Hey, it's a fat guy." My little brother watching Gacha Life videos on full volume everywhere we go. My daughter announced to everyone at the Christmas table that I was wearing my boyfriend's underwear to bed. She called me chicken head because she didn't remember my name. My 3-year-old son pulled the fire alarm while my family and I were waiting for a table at a very crowded restaurant. We just apologized and left with our heads down after people stopped panicking. At a store one day, I was stuck by an urgent need to go to the bathroom. Had a 3-year-old with me, so I just hauled him in with me. I gave him my phone, but my pooping was a cacophony of "don't sit on the floor, don't touch that thing," etc. I created a single, enormous excretion, cleaned up and left. It was fine. Next time we went to a store, he grabbed my hand and pulled me toward a bathroom. "Come on, Dad, I want to see a big poop." On vacation with my mom and Gram, probably 3 to 4 years old. We are white. We used to call Gram Grace because she would spill on herself and my mom would joke that she wasn't graceful. Anyway, we were walking and I tripped on the sidewalk while a black guy was passing us. I yelled, "We are all Graces." Totally sounded like we are all racist. My mom and Gram were so embarrassed and scurried me off. No, we are not in fact at all racist. I was the embarrassing child. Lol. When I was 3, my aunt and her husband were living in an old mobile home while they built their new house. Upon my first visit, I loudly said, "Ew, it smells like old lady breath in here." My mom just busted out laughing. My aunt was pissed. My son invited someone who was not welcome to my home. I had to be blunt at the door. It was awkward. My little sister is used to pulling my mom's shirt up because she's still being breastfed. Well, she started to realize my mom isn't the only person in the world with boobs. So one day we're out, I'm holding her, she just pulls my shirt up, at the speed of light, in public. My mom jokingly called my brother my little hemorrhoidal tissue when he was driving her crazy. One day on the city bus, he was around 5, he said it back to her and kept saying it while she was trying to get him to stop.